32 NFL teams, 144 picks, and they all said no to Shedeur Sanders. Not once, not twice, but 4 times each. Every single NFL team had multiple chances to draft the quarterback who was supposed to be a lock for the top 5. Instead, they watched him slide further than any hyped QB prospect in draft history. Think about that. The Tennessee Titans took Cam Ward first overall. The New York Giants, a team Shedeur had been wearing custom cleats for, passed on him twice. The New Orleans Saints, who desperately needed a quarterback, with Derek Carr injured, selected an offensive lineman instead. Even the Las Vegas Raiders, where Tom Brady himself had mentored Shedeur and owns part of the team, said no thanks. By the time the Cleveland Browns finally called his name, with pick 144, one thing was crystal clear. The NFL doesn't just dislike Shedeur Sanders, they hate him. An anonymous NFL executive put it bluntly. The NFL is looking at him like he's our prime suspect of somebody we can make an example out of. But why? How does a quarterback with legitimate first-round talent, a player Mel Kiper ranked 5th overall on his big board, become the most avoided prospect in draft history? The answer lies in 3 brutal truths the NFL discovered about Shedeur Sanders. His attitude stinks. His father is a nightmare. And his entitlement knows no bounds. What you're about to witness isn't just a draft slide. It's a calculated message from 32 NFL teams to one cocky quarterback and his famous father. This is the story of how Shedeur Sanders went from future franchise savior to draft night pariah, and why the league made sure everyone was watching when they brought him crashing back to earth. Because sometimes talent isn't enough. Sometimes the NFL decides to teach a lesson, and Shedeur Sanders, he just became their favorite subject. The setup alone should have been a warning sign. While other prospects gathered quietly with family, Shedeur Sanders built a monument to his own ego. The draft room wasn't just a room, it was a shrine. Legendary, plastered across every wall. Custom hats from 15 different NFL teams lined up like trophies he'd already won. Dancers on stilts, yes, actual stilts, wearing disco ball costumes, holding signs that screamed legendary in gold lettering. The Sanders family even hired a professional film crew. Because of course they did. They decided to live stream it all, broadcasting their anticipated coronation to the world.
But I'm watching his draft room, and the word legendary is all over the draft room.
One commentator noted about the overwhelming legendary theme.
Can we just pull the temperature down a little?
But the Sanders family was all in. Dion had guaranteed his son would go top 4. He will be a top 5 pick. Where's your son going? He'd tweeted to critics just days before. The confidence wasn't just high, it was stratospheric. They'd soon find out exactly where Shedeur was going. Nowhere fast. As pick after pick came off the board, the cameras caught every painful moment. Cam Ward to Tennessee, Abdul Carter to Giants, Jackson Dart to the Giants at 25. With each name called, the energy in that legendary room deflated like a punctured balloon. The New Orleans Saints held the 9th pick. Dion had been dropping hints for weeks, posting about loving black and gold, talking about the food, the culture. Travis Hunter literally paused his media interview to watch. He said,
all right, my bad. I was hoping that was Shedeur.
New Orleans Saints select Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle, Texas.
The camera zoomed in on Dion's face. No words needed. Just a slow, disbelieving headshake that said everything. His brother Shiloh leaned over and whispered what everyone was thinking.
If they don't take you right now, there's something going on, bro.
Then came the cruelest moment of all. Shedeur's phone rang. The caller identified himself as Mickey Loomis, Saints GM. Hey man, we've been waiting on you. We're gonna take you with our next pick, but you'll have to wait a little longer.
Good, been waiting on you. Ready to go.
Yeah, we have.
For sure.
We're gonna take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah, yes sir, let's be legendary.
Hey, but you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Okay. The room erupted in nervous celebration. Finally. Just kidding, the voice said. It was a prank.
Sorry about that.
Ready to go. What does that mean?
Later traced to the son of the Falcons' defensive coordinator, who'd found Shedeur's number on a shared iPad. The NFL fined Atlanta $250,000. Jeff Ulbrich personally lost $100,000. But the damage was done. The world had watched, live, as the self-proclaimed legendary quarterback discovered he wasn't so legendary after all. The most crushing part? This wasn't just bad luck. Teams had deliberately turned away from Shedeur Sanders, and the reasons were becoming painfully clear. The worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. That's how one anonymous NFL assistant coach described meeting Shedeur Sanders, and he wasn't alone. Reports from multiple teams painted a picture of a prospect who didn't just bomb interviews, he seemingly sabotaged them. The New York Giants meeting became infamous. According to Todd McShay, Brian DeBull had prepared an install package, a standard test where prospects demonstrate their ability to learn and present plays. It's quarterback 101. Show up prepared, show you can handle an NFL playbook. Shedeur showed up unprepared. When Daboll called him out, Sanders didn't just struggle, he bristled at the criticism. Got called out on it, didn't like that, McShay reported on his podcast. It got tense. Allegedly, he got up at the board, wasn't fully prepared for the install, and Brian Daboll, who's known for testing quarterbacks hard, didn't let it slide. But that was just the beginning. Sources described behavior that would make any employer cringe. Shedeur allegedly showed up to formal interviews wearing over-ear headphones, not earbuds, full Beat-style headphones. During meetings, he'd pull out his phone and start FaceTiming friends. Mid-interview, one scout revealed, we're talking about protection schemes, and he's literally on FaceTime. When we asked him to put it away, he acted like we were the problem. When teams asked him to demonstrate his football knowledge or discuss his weaknesses, his response was dismissive. Look at the tape. When pressed about specific plays where he held the ball too long or missed reads, he'd shrug. Maybe I'm not the guy for you. Two teams drafting in the top 10, both with clear quarterback needs, left their meetings with Shedeur shaking their heads. McShay's sources were specific. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh. Just felt like we didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him. Another executive was more direct. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good. He makes you feel small. Teams tested him with standard film study. They'd show 3 consecutive plays where he missed open receivers, not to embarrass him, but to understand his decision-making process. Standard stuff for any quarterback evaluation. Shedeur's response became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Maybe I'm not the guy for you. Colin Cowherd later explained why this was catastrophic. Teams are going to challenge you in these meetings. They show you your worst moments and want to know if you'll own them. And if you say, maybe I'm not your guy, then guess what? You're not. Even the Raiders meeting, where he had every advantage, went sideways. Tom Brady had personally mentored Shedeur. He knew the Raider system. He had relationships with the coaching staff. Yet somehow, he managed to turn off a team that desperately needed quarterback help. One GM watching the carnage unfold summarized it perfectly. He didn't bomb interviews because he didn't know football. He bombed them because he thought he was above them. That's unforgivable at quarterback. In a league where Baker Mayfield once grabbed his crotch on the sideline and still went first overall, Shedeur Sanders had achieved the impossible. He'd made himself undraftable through pure attitude. And if the interview disasters weren't enough, there was another massive red flag waving in every NFL front office. His father. Stephen A. Smith nailed it on first take. I believe that the biggest issue in all of this was primetime Dion Sanders and the thought of having to deal with him. All I'm saying is it's hard for me to sit here today and watch a dude that was projected to be a top pick drop completely out of the first round and ignore all those reports. The father-son dynamic that once seemed like Shedeur's greatest asset became his biggest liability. Deion wasn't just a helicopter parent, he was a Black Hawk helicopter with missiles armed and ready. First problem, Dion was acting as Shedeur's agent. No buffer, no professional to deliver hard truths, no one to manage expectations. When teams gave honest feedback, Dion heard what he wanted to hear. as Shedeur Sanders himself admitted. Dad was our agent, but that hasn't been working out too good. The threats started early. On the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, Dion declared,
so there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen. It's gonna be an Eli.
He specifically mentioned wanting Shedeur in the top 4 picks, adding,
the latter one would not go behind 4.
When challenged about interfering with team decisions, Dion doubled down. I'm not going to let my son get down to no foolishness. It's not like who I would like for him to play for. It's a couple teams that I won't allow him to play for. Translation. We'll embarrass you publicly if you draft my son, and don't treat him like royalty. Teams remembered Eli Manning refusing to play for the Chargers in 2004. They remembered the humiliation. Now here was Dion, essentially threatening the same thing, but without the leverage of a first overall pick or Archie Manning's quiet diplomacy. During the draft, Deion's social media meltdown began early, when ESPN's Dan Orlovsky mildly criticized Shedeur's tendency to take selfish sacks. Deion retweeted a fan calling Orlovsky a hater. He tweeted sarcastically about 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Exactly why you should draft a QB if you're the @Browns. I mean, the man is only 40 years old. But the real damage happened behind closed doors. Teams calling Dion for feedback got sales pitches, not honest assessments. When they expressed concerns, they got threats of public criticism. Sources say multiple GMs specifically asked each other, "You want to deal with Primetime's Twitter account all season?" NFL owners, billionaires who don't like being told what to do, took notice. As Boomer Ediason revealed, "I had an NFL owner tell me he went to his GM and said, 'I don't want that guy.' One executive put it bluntly, 'Nobody wants a celebrity backup quarterback. Nobody wants that circus in the building.'" Even Dion's massive NFL network couldn't help. Despite being personal friends with Jerry Jones, despite his CBS connections, despite his relationships throughout the league, teams were unified in their message. We don't want to deal with Primetime's criticism every time his son doesn't start. The question teams asked themselves wasn't just, can Shedeur play? It was, can we handle Deion tweeting at us every Sunday? The answer, 143 times over, was hell no. But perhaps the most damning evidence against Shedeur wasn't his interviews or his father. It was his own behavior, broadcast for the world to see.
You know who my dad is?
Those 6 words, spoken during a combine interview, perfectly captured why NFL teams ran from Shedeur Sanders. It wasn't just arrogance. It was the complete inability to see himself as anything but football royalty, entitled to NFL success. The warning signs had been flashing for years. During Colorado's disastrous 4-8 season, Shedeur publicly threw his offensive line under the bus. How many times did Riley get touched? How many times did Raiola get hit? They was able to run the ball consistently. I throw downfield. That's why my completion percentage ain't 90. Watch the video closely. His teammates' reactions tell you everything. Awkward laughter, eye rolls, shifted glances. Nobody challenged him. Dion was the coach, but nobody supported him either. Former NFL quarterback Chase Daniel broke it down. You literally can't do that as a quarterback. Those are the guys protecting you. And he's saying this publicly? That's locker room poison. The behavior extended beyond blaming teammates. After losses, Shedeur would post Instagram stories of his stats. After wins, he'd flex his watch collection. When Colorado got blown out by Oregon 42-6, Shedeur's post-game comments focused on his completion percentage. At the Combine, when asked why teams should draft him, Shedeur's response was stunningly tone-deaf.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, it don't get me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why any franchise should pick me.
Compare that to Jalen Milroe, who went ahead of Shedeur. When asked about his weaknesses, Milroe smiled. "How much time you got?" When asked for his message to teams that passed on him, he simply said, "Belt to ass." The contrast was devastating. One NFC scouting director explained the deeper issue. He's been so insulated. It's going to be a culture shock when he learns how a locker room really works. He's had so much input on the offensive game plan, who the coach is, everything's been catered to him. When you walk into an NFL building, no one gives a shit about that. No one cares who your dad is. Even Colorado's offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur reportedly struggled with Shedeur changing plays at the line without permission. He'd just decide to call something else himself, a source revealed. No consequences. Can you imagine doing that to Andy Reid or Bill Belichick? The draft party itself became Exhibit A in the case against Shedeur. While Cam Ward went to bed early to study his new playbook, while Jackson Dart called his new position coach immediately, Shedeur threw $1 million bash. Video surfaced showing champagne flowing, designer bags piled high, Louis Vuitton cases filled with cash on display. The party featured the same legendary theme from his draft room, complete with custom merchandise. His brother, Deion Jr., tried damage control. It was a gift, not a flex, but the timing couldn't have been worse. You just fell to the 5th round, and you're partying like you went first overall? Even small things added up. The custom Giants cleats worn during games. Presumptuous. The designer watches flexed after routine touchdowns. Excessive. The $100,000 legendary chain made specifically for draft night. Delusional. NFL teams saw it all and reached the same conclusion. As one scout summarized, there's confident, there's cocky, and then there's Shedeur. He crossed from cocky to delusional somewhere around his sophomore year, and nobody in his circle had the balls to tell him. Character concerns sink more NFL careers than talent deficiencies ever will. Teams didn't just question if Shedeur could play quarterback, they questioned if he could follow one. As the draft wore on, the timeline of Shedeur's humiliation became a horror movie where everyone knew the killer except the victim. Pick one, Cam Ward to Tennessee. Expected. The Titans needed a franchise quarterback, and Ward was the consensus top prospect. Pick 9, the moment of truth. New Orleans Saints, the team Deion had been flirting with for weeks. Derek Carr injured, backup situation murky. Dion had posted about loving black and gold. He tweeted about the food, the culture. This was the landing spot.
New Orleans Saints select Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle, Texas.
The reaction shot was instant meme material. Dion's head shake. Travis Hunter's shocked, damn. The legendary sign behind a stunned Shedeur suddenly looking like cosmic mockery. Mel Kiper's meltdown began immediately. I think it's disgusting. I don't understand what the heck's going on. He's the 5th player on my board. Other quarterbacks being taken who aren't as good as Shedeur. Pick 25. Giants trade up. Social media explodes. Shedeur camp gets excited. The custom cleats, the New York market, primetime in the Big Apple.
The New York Giants select Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi.
So it is
2 quarterbacks off the board. Neither named Sanders. Pick 40, Saints again. Surely now, they just signed Derek Carr to an extension coming off injury. They need quarterback depth.
The New Orleans Saints select Tyler Shough, quarterback, Louisville.
Shough, a 26-year-old 6th-year senior who threw wobbly passes at the combine. The disrespect was breathtaking. Then the avalanche. The Steelers, with only Mason Rudolph on the roster, took defensive help instead. The Seahawks grabbed Jalen Milroe. The Browns, who NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah had mocked Shedeur to at number 2 overall, selected Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. Even Donald Trump tweeted, "What is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid?" Dion Sanders was a great player and coach. Therefore, Shedeur has phenomenal genes and is all set for greatness. When a current president defending your draft stock, you've transcended sports failure and entered cultural phenomenon territory. Pick after excruciating pick, round after humiliating round. The man once projected to go first, overall kept sliding. Defensive tackles, guards, long snappers, all deemed more valuable than prime time's son. The numbers were staggering. 143 players selected before Shedeur Sanders, 5 quarterbacks taken ahead of him, 32 teams passing 4 times each, 128 no thank you decisions. Skip Bayless, never one for subtlety, called it the most stunning and disgusting development in NFL draft history. He posted in all caps, "What's happening to Shedeur Sanders is unprecedented." Finally, pick 144, the Cleveland Browns, the very team Deion once said he'd pull an Eli to avoid. Traded up in the 5th round to select Shedeur. The camera caught everything. No celebration, no relief, no tears of joy, just Shedeur looking stunned while his legendary draft room sat in funeral silence. Those 15 team hats mocking him from the table. In 40 years of draft coverage, analysts agreed they'd never seen anything like it. But here's what made it all so shocking. Shedeur actually had real talent. Watch his tape against TCU. 3rd and goal from the 7-yard line. Colorado's in 11 personnel, trips left. TCU shows blitz, rushing 3 while the weak side linebacker loops around. Shedeur recognizes this pre-snap, knows the hot route isn't there, and makes a decision most college quarterbacks can't. He rolls left before the pressure arrives, keeps his eyes downfield, and throws a perfect back shoulder fade while on the move. Touchdown. That's NFL level processing. Another play, same game. TCU in cover 3 sky. Shedeur identifies the rotation, looks off the deep safety with his eyes, manipulates the robber with his shoulders, then delivers a 45-yard dime to Travis Hunter down the seam, all while taking a crushing hit from a 290-pound defensive tackle. The ball placement, perfect. The timing, professional. The decision-making, elite. So why did teams pass? He's not that good. One anonymous executive explained to NFL Network. Listen to the full quote. "He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good for the headache he brings." That last part is crucial. Shedeur wasn't being evaluated purely on talent. He was being measured on the talent to trouble ratio. The 52 sacks he took in 2024 became Exhibit A. Film studies showed at least half came from holding the ball too long, trying to play hero ball instead of taking checkdowns. In the Oregon game alone, he took 4 sacks on 3rd down when checkdown options were available. Each one killed drives. Selfish sacks, Dan Orlovsky called them, the comment that triggered Deion's Twitter rampage. Brady Quinn broke down the deeper issue. "I've never seen a family talk this much about a player before the league even picked up the phone." There's a difference between confidence and delusion. Shedeur crossed that line when he started believing his own hype. Teams categorize quarterbacks into 2 buckets, starters and backups. The distinction isn't just talent, it's mentality, leadership, coachability. Starters elevate others. Backups need elevation. You're drafting the face of your franchise, one scout explained. If your own teammates don't respect you, if your college offensive line celebrates when you get hit, your talent means nothing. The Johnny Manziel comparisons surface constantly. Not playing style, character concerns. Teams remembered the headaches, the divided locker rooms, the constant drama. One Browns executive who lived through Johnny football reportedly said, "Fool me once." Most damning was this revelation from McShay. By draft time, teams weren't just evaluating whether Shedeur could play. They were calculating whether he was worth the PR nightmare of cutting him if he didn't work out. Think about that. NFL teams were already planning his failure exit strategy. The Saints reportedly loved his film, but walked away after one interview. The Giants saw accurate throws but couldn't envision him in their quarterback room. The Steelers chose Mason Rudolph's mediocrity over Shedeur's drama. The NFL didn't doubt Shedeur could throw a football. They doubted he could lead a huddle, accept coaching, handle adversity, or put team before stats. When talent meets toxicity, talent loses every single time. And then came the ultimate irony. Cleveland. The Browns' draft room footage tells you everything. No cheers, no high fives, no celebration. Just GM Andrew Berry and coach Kevin Stefanski looking like they'd been handed a court summons. "You know, really, the acquisition cost was pretty light," Berry muttered to NFL Network, unable to fake enthusiasm. Translation: "We got him cheap because nobody else wanted him." Watch the body language closely. While teams usually celebrate draft picks like lottery wins, Cleveland's brass gave Shedeur the slow golf clap reserved for participation trophies. Sources later revealed what everyone suspected. Ownership forced their hand. Jimmy Haslam reportedly overruled his football people to make a splash. The irony was Shakespearean. Cleveland was the exact team Deion had mocked, the franchise he'd sworn to pull an Eli to avoid. When asked about teams to avoid, Deion had specifically mentioned, "I'm not going to let my son get down in no foolishness." Now, they were Shedeur's only lifeline, and not because they wanted him. Consider the Browns' draft logic, or lack thereof. They held pick number 2 overall. They could have taken Shedeur there if they truly believed in him. They could have paired him with Travis Hunter. Instead, they traded down to number 5, selected defensive tackle Mason Graham, then drafted Dillon Gabriel, a 26-year-old quarterback, in the 3rd round with pick number 91. 53 picks later, they panic traded back into the 5th round for Shedeur. This screams owner intervention, one NFL insider told The Athletic. No GM drafts 2 quarterbacks that close together unless someone's forcing their hand. Barry's not that incompetent. The Browns now had 5 quarterbacks for 3 roster spots. Injured Deshaun Watson, out with torn Achilles. 40-year-old Joe Flacco, the same QB Dion mocked. Journeyman Kenny Pickett. 3rd round pick Dillon Gabriel. And 5th round afterthought Shedeur Sanders. The economics were brutal. Watson was untradeable with his contract. Flacco provided veteran insurance. That left 3 quarterbacks fighting for potentially 1 spot, with the earliest pick, Gabriel, having the inside track. "I never thought I'd feel bad for a Sanders," one Brown staffer reportedly said, "but this kid just walked into a meat grinder." Most telling was Shedeur's reaction to being drafted. "They said I was the last guy on their board they wanted to get. Now they're trying to trade back into the 4th for me." Not gratitude, not humility, but indignation that he wasn't picked earlier by a team that didn't even want him. Even in his moment of salvation, Shedeur couldn't read the room. The Browns didn't draft him to be their savior. They drafted him because the owner wanted headlines and the price was right. As one Brown source told Mary Kay Cabot, "We just drafted a backup quarterback who thinks he's Peyton Manning." Welcome to Cleveland, where quarterback dreams go to die and egos die even faster. The harsh reality hit immediately. "He's officially in backup territory," ESPN analyst Chase Daniel declared on Get Up. And not good backup territory. We're talking 3rd string, might not make the roster territory. Let's do the brutal math. Cleveland carries 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. Deshaun Watson is guaranteed. He's owed $230 million, whether he plays or not. Joe Flacco isn't getting cut. He's proven veteran insurance. That leaves 1 spot for 3 players. Kenny Pickett, former 1st rounder with starting experience, Dillon Gabriel, just drafted ahead of Shedeur, and the 5th round project nobody wanted. Guess who's the odd man out? Making matters exponentially worse, the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL have already added Shedeur to their negotiation list. Translation, the Canadian League is preparing for his NFL failure before he's taken a single snap in Cleveland. This is what happens when reality meets delusion, Colin Cowherd explained. We're witnessing the gap between how Shedeur sees himself and how the NFL sees him. It's the Grand Canyon. Former GM Mike Tannenbaum put it in historical context. From top 5 mock drafts to potential practice squad in 4 months. In my 25 years in the NFL, I've never seen anything like it. Shedeur's early response offered glimmers of both hope and concern. He showed up at John Marshall High School in Cleveland, telling students, "We got a purpose. We got something to prove. I'm bringing a Super Bowl to Cleveland." Noble words. But actions matter more. Reports from Browns facilities painted a mixed picture. While Dillon Gabriel arrived at 5 a.m. and stayed until 10 p.m., while Kenny Pickett organized optional throwing sessions with receivers, Shedeur maintained what staffers called celebrity hours. In at 9, gone by 5. He still doesn't get it, one Brown source told Cleveland.com. He thinks being drafted validates everything. He thinks we're lucky to have him. He should be fighting for his career. The comparison to other late-round success stories became unavoidable. Tom Brady, pick 199, made the Patriots roster by outworking everyone and accepting his role as fourth-string quarterback. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, earned playing time through humility and preparation. Dak Prescott, fourth-round pick, became the Cowboys starter through relentless dedication. The successful late-round quarterbacks share one trait, Daniel Jeremiah explained. Desperate hunger. They know they're one bad practice from unemployment, one missed meeting from the waiver wire. That fear drives them. Shedeur, he posted Instagram videos of his new Cleveland shopping spree, Louis Vuitton bags, Gucci slides, Chrome Hearts jewelry. The caption? Dog Pound got a new alpha. From legendary to literally fighting for a practice squad spot, one scout marveled. The ego still writing checks his draft status can't cash. The Browns hold final cuts on August 27th. By then, Shedeur Sanders will either have transformed into a humble professional, or he'll be holding his passport, Googling apartments in Toronto, wondering how it all went so wrong. The NFL didn't just humble Shedeur Sanders. They've given him 90 days to prove he belongs in professional football at all. And the message from the NFL couldn't be clearer. They didn't just pass on Shedeur Sanders. They sent a message written in 144-point font, bold and underlined. We're done with entitled quarterbacks. This wasn't about talent. Watch Shedeur's film. He can make every NFL throw. He processes defenses well. He's accurate, mobile, and football smart. In the 1990s or early 2000s, those skills alone would have guaranteed a first-round selection, regardless of personality. But the NFL in 2025 decided that character isn't just important. It's everything at quarterback. The league is looking at him like he's our prime suspect of somebody we can make an example out of, that anonymous executive had warned. And that's exactly what happened. 32 teams conspired through individual decisions to deliver one unified message. We don't care who your father is. We don't care about your social media following. We don't care about your legendary brand. Think about what teams sacrificed to make this point. The Saints desperately needed quarterback help with Derek Carr's injury concerns. They still passed. The Steelers were facing a season with Mason Rudolph as their starter. They still passed. The Giants had been Shedeur's dream destination. They traded up and picked someone else. Even the Raiders, where Tom Brady personally vouched for Shedeur, where Dion had countless connections, said no thanks. For Shedeur, the path forward is both simple and seemingly impossible given his track record. Shut up, delete social media, show up first, leave last, accept coaching without argument, earn respect through actions, not words, stop being Dion's son and start being a professional quarterback. The Tom Brady comp everyone loves. Brady was pick 199, spent his rookie year as the fourth quarterback, made the roster by arriving at 5 a.m. and leaving after coaches. No entitlement, no complaints, no Instagram flexes, just work. This draft will be studied for decades, predicted Mike Florio. Not for who went where, but for what it represents. The NFL collectively decided that talent without character is worthless at quarterback. The message extends beyond Shedeur. Every high school quarterback watching this draft learned that talent plus humility beats talent plus attitude every time. Every college star realized that famous parents can become fatal liabilities. Every prospect understood that the league has zero patience for players who think they're above the process. Will Shedeur Sanders prove them all wrong? History suggests no. The list of entitled prospects who humbled themselves after being humiliated is shorter than his draft position was low. But if he does succeed, if he somehow transforms from primetime spoiled son into a legitimate NFL quarterback, he'll have the NFL's collective hatred to thank for saving his career. Sometimes hate is the best teacher, and the NFL just enrolled Shedeur Sanders in a masterclass. Do you think the NFL was right to blackball Shedeur Sanders? Was this a necessary wake-up call, or did 32 teams overreact to his attitude? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe to follow whether he survives Browns training camp or becomes the biggest draft bust in NFL history.